Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to be honest with you and with everyone listening. I had a bit of an existential crisis preparing for this one.
Oh, just a bit.
Just a bit, yeah. Usually, we grab a stack of articles, maybe some tech news, a historical event, and we parse it out. It's information. It fits neatly in a box.
But today's box is a little different. It's a bit of a paradox in itself.
Today's box is claiming that the box doesn't exist, and that I don't exist, and that you, listening, well, we'll get to that.
Real.
We are looking at a stack of notes, translations, and philosophical arguments that revolve around one of the oldest, most mind-bending questions in human history.
It's the kind of question that keeps you up at night.
It really is. It's the question that usually hits you at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. But, we're going to tackle it right now in broad daylight.
The question of reality itself, specifically, and this is the big one. Are we dreaming right now?
And I don't mean dreaming in that, follow your dreams motivational poster sense.
No, not at all.
I mean, literally. Is this conversation we're having a hallucination? Is the coffee I drank this morning just, I don't know, part of a simulation? We are diving headfirst into the deep end of Advaita Vedanta today.
It is a heavy topic, for sure. But what I love about the source material we have in front of us is that it doesn't start way up in the clouds. It starts with a very visceral, a very human reaction.
It really does. The source text opens with this immediate provocation. It says, essentially, we are told we are living in a dream where the rules of dreams apply. But then, right away, the text pushes back. It voices the exact objection I was screaming in my head while I was reading it.
And what was that?
It says, but I can see everything. I can lift my hand from my own mind. I can eat. I can drink. So how can this be a dream?
That's it. That is the argument from tangibility. It is probably the most common defense we all have against this idea of illusion.
It's the pinch me defense, right? I mean, right now I'm tapping the table. You can hear that. That sound, it travels through the air. It hits my eardrum. My brain processes it. It feels undeniable.
Of course it does.
And the source material just captures that conflict so perfectly. It highlights this clash between our sensory experience, the undeniable realness of lifting your own hand, and this huge philosophical assertion that it is all somehow a lie.
And that is exactly where we need to start. Because if we just dismiss the dream idea as, nonsense because the table feels hard, we miss the entire point of the philosophy.
We missed the deep dive.
We miss the entire deep dive. The sources we are looking at today aren't using the word dream as some kind of poetic metaphor. They aren't saying life is like a dream.
They're saying it is a dream.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or at least it has the same quality of reality as a dream. They're exploring these very specific concepts from Advaita Vedanta, which, for anyone unfamiliar, is a non-dualistic school of Hindu philosophy.
Non-dual meaning, not two, the opposite of dualism.
Exactly. And the mission of this deep dive, really, is to unpack a paradox that the source material lays out right at the beginning. The paradox is, how can something feel 100% real, tangible, consequential, like, burning your hand on a stove, and yet be considered false or illusion at the very same time?
That is the million-dollar question, because if I burn my hand, it hurts. You can tell me it's an illusion all you want, but I'm still reaching for the ice pack.
And the philosophy actually accounts for that need for ice. That's the brilliant part. It doesn't deny your pain.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the text leads us into this by asking about something that seems, at first, totally unrelated to dreams. It pivots to the concept of rebirth.
It does. And it's a crucial pivot. It's the entry point into the whole discussion.
The source poses the question. Did a past birth happen or not? Did rebirth happen or not? Now, normally, if you ask a spiritual teacher this, you expect a long, a map of the soul's journey, past lives, karma, all of that.
Right. You expect a timeline.
Yeah.
You expect a story.
Exactly. But here, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. Or maybe, more accurately, it's a yes and a no at the same time.
And this is the core of the deep dive today. If you can wrap your head around this next part, you'll get everything else we talk about. The source explains that the answer depends entirely on which level of reality you are looking from.
So it's like we have to wear two different pairs of glasses to understand this. One pair for one answer, one for the other.
That's a great way to put it. The text introduces two distinct terms, two categories of truth. The first is paramarthic satya.
Paramarthic satya. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. It translates more or less to absolute reality, the highest truth. The view from the top of the mountain, so to speak.
Okay, the view from the top. And the second?
The second is vyavaharik satya. This is the empirical or relative reality. This is the view from down in the valley.
The view from the traffic jam.
The view from the traffic jam is perfect.
Okay, let's break these down because I feel like if we don't get these definitions rock solid, the rest of this conversation is going to sound like complete nonsense.
Agreed.
Let's start with the big one, the view from the mountaintop. Paramarthic Satya, absolute reality. When we look through this lens, what is the answer to the question, have I lived before?
The answer is a hard, flat, uncompromising
Just no. No reincarnation, no past lives, nothing.
no.
Okay, play devil's advocate here. I feel like I have a history, I have memories, maybe I get deja vu sometimes. I feel like I've been around. The text says no.
It goes even further than no. According to the paramarchic view described in our source material, no former birth occurred because fundamentally no birth ever occurred. Not then and not now.
Wait, hold on. Just pause there. So it's not just you didn't have a past life, it's you don't even have this life.
In the absolute sense, yes, that's the claim.
That's terrifying.
Is it? Or is it liberating?
I don't know yet. Right now it feels terrifying. I'm sitting here. I have a name, I have a job, I have a childhood full of memories. The source material is saying that's all. What? Smoke. A projection.
The source material states that concepts like the individual soul, the jiva karma, and rebirth are all categorized as illusion in this absolute view.
Okay, but what's the logic? Why?
The underlying logic provided, and this is the absolute key, is that apart from Brahman, which is the ultimate singular undifferentiated reality, nothing else actually exists.
Okay, so this is the non-dual part of non-duality kicking in.
Precisely. So think about it just logically for a second. If Brahman the absolute is infinite, omnipresent, and is literally everything,
Yeah.
is there any room left over for a separate you?
I mean, no. Logically, if something is everything, there can't be something else outside of it to be me.
Right. If there's only one, with a capital O, there is no second thing to be born. There's no second thing to die. There's no timeline for the one to move along because it's already everywhere, every when.
So, from the view of absolute reality, the slate isn't just clean. There is no slate. There's no pen. There's no story being written.
Correct. The source uses this classic analogy. Think of a gold ring. You see a ring. But if you look at its fundamental substance, it is just gold.
Oh.
If you melt it down into a lump, it's gold. If you forge it into a necklace, it's still gold. The ring was just a name and a form given to the gold. It never really had a separate existence apart from the gold.
So Paramarthic Satya is looking at the substance, the gold, and completely ignoring the shape of the ring.
Exactly. And from that view, the ring was never born, and it will never die. The gold just is.
Okay. I can follow the logic, even if my ego absolutely hates it. It feels like saying a movie never happened because, at the end of the day, the screen was blank the whole time.
That's a fantastic analogy. The screen is the absolute. The movie is the relative.
Which brings us to the problem.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we're watching the movie, we are crying at the sad parts, we are cheering at the good parts, we're eating the popcorn.
And we are definitely paying for the ticket. The price of admission is suffering.
Right, so we can't just ignore that experience. And this brings us to that second level of reality mentioned in the text, Vyavaharik Satya, the empirical or relative reality.
This is the traffic jam reality, as you called it.
The traffic jam reality, let's stick with that.
Yes. In the absolute sense, okay, cars are just arrangements of metal and energy, the road is just asphalt, and you are nowhere. Fine. But if you are actually in a traffic jam, you are going to be late, your boss is going to be mad, and your blood pressure is going to go up. That is Vyavaharik Satya. You have to deal with it on its own terms.
So, asking the same question again, but this time with our traffic jam glasses on, did rebirth happen? What does the Vyavaharik view say?
It says, yes, it seems to happen. And more than that, it says, yes, you have to operate as if it happens.
Seems to happen is an interesting choice of words.
We'll be careful with that. Within this level of reality, it is treated as a binding fact. It's not treated as fake while you are in it. The source explains that as long as there is ignorance, and here ignorance just means not knowing the ultimate truth we just talked about, then the laws of karma apply fully. No exceptions.
So ignorance is the condition for this reality to exist, like it's the operating system.
Yes. Ignorance is like the electricity powering the simulation. If you pull the plug, the simulation vanishes. But as long as it's plugged in, everything inside feels real.
Okay, so walk me through the logic here from inside the traffic jam.
Yeah.
Why does rebirth have to happen in this relative reality? What's the mechanism?
The text explains the cycle very clearly. We act. We do things in the world. We have intentions. We speak words. We perform actions. These are all causes.
Okay, basic cause and effect. Makes sense.
And every cause must have an effect. That's a fundamental law of this reality. So we experience the fruits of our actions. We experience joy. We experience suffering. But here is the catch.
Yeah.
Do you experience the result of every single action you take immediately?
No, of course not. Sometimes I do something good and don't see a reward for years. Or I eat a cheeseburger and don't have a heart attack until, well, hopefully never, but you know what I mean. The consequence is delayed.
Exactly. There is a lag, a
Yeah.
big one, and because the results, the karmic fruits of many of our actions, aren't exhausted in a single lifetime, there is a balance left over on the books when you die.
It's like a cosmic balance sheet that refuses to close at the end of the fiscal year.
That is the perfect analogy. You have to carry the debt or the profit over to the next quarter, and that next quarter is the next life.
Right.
So rebirth appears to happen to fulfill those unspent karmic consequences. It's a system of cosmic accounting.
So we have two completely opposite answers from two different points of view. Absolute, nothing ever happened. Relative, everything is happening. It's messy, it's bound by law, and it repeats over and over.
Yes, that's the setup.
And here is where it gets really interesting for me. The source then tries to reconcile this. Because you have to ask, how can both be true? It feels like a massive logical contradiction. You can't be pregnant and not pregnant. You can't be born and not born.
That's binary, either thinking. Advaita asks you to step out of that and consider both hand.
And the source uses the analogy of the dream to bridge this gap. This is why we started with that whole provocation about lifting your hand. It all comes back to the dream.
The dream analogy is probably the most powerful and most used tool in this entire philosophy. If you can really sit with it, it unlocks everything.
So let's break it down. I want to really get into the nuts and bolts of this.
Okay, think about a specific nightmare you've had. Let's say the classic. A tiger is chasing you.
Okay, classic anxiety dream. I'm in a jungle. There's a tiger behind me. I can hear it.
In that dream, do you run?
Of course. I run for my life. I'm sweating. My heart is pounding in my chest. I can feel the leaves and branches hitting my face as I run. It's all happening.
If you trip and fall off a cliff in the dream, do you feel that dropping sensation in your stomach?
Yes, that lurch. It feels terrifyingly, absolutely real.
So, strictly speaking, within the context of the dream, the tiger is real, the danger is real, the running is real. The laws of physics that apply in that dream gravity friction are binding on you, the dream character. That is Vyavaharik Satya.
Yeah.
That's the relative reality.
Okay. The rules of the game apply while you're in the game.
If you stop running in a dream, the dream tiger will catch and eat you. You cannot use absolute truth to stop the relative tiger.
Right. I can't just turn to the tiger in the middle of the chase and say, aha, you're just an illusion created by my subconscious and expect it to stop. Chomp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The rules of the traffic jam apply in the traffic jam. But what happens when you wake up?
I open my eyes. I'm safe in my bed. My heart is probably still racing for a minute, but I realize none of it happened. The jungle is gone. The tiger is gone.
That is Paramarthic Satya. That is the shift to the absolute reality. Upon waking, you realize that the running, the falling, the tiger, they were never real in the absolute sense. You never actually traveled any distance. You never left your bed.
But the sweat on my forehead might be real. The adrenaline is real.
The residual effect is there, but the event itself was a projection. A very convincing one, but a projection nonetheless.
So Advaita Vedanta, according to these notes, accepts the theory of karma and rebirth, but only at the dream level.
Correct. It accepts them at the practical relative level, because that is where we are currently experiencing our existence. Right now, as far as we're concerned, we are being chased by the tiger.
That is such a helpful way to frame it, because it's not dismissing our struggle as fake in a way that insults the pain. It's not saying, oh, your suffering doesn't matter.
Not at all. It's saying your suffering is absolutely real within its context.
It's saying it's conditional.
Yeah.
Or temporary.
Conditional is the perfect word. It exists on the condition of ignorance. As long as you are asleep, the dream is real. The moment you wake up, it's gone.
So this leads to the big so what question for me. Because if I know it's a dream, what do I do? What changes?
That's the danger zone right there. That's a very tricky question.
Right. Because if I know it's all a dream, do I just stop caring? Do I stop looking both ways before crossing the street? I mean, if nothing is real, does nothing matter? This sounds like it could slide into a really destructive nihilism really fast.
And the source material anticipates this exact problem. It actually brings up a specific, very famous philosopher here to address this why play the game question.
Adi Shankaracharya.
The heavyweight.
Okay.
If you don't know him, Shankaracharya is basically the Einstein of Advaita Vedanta. He was the one who systemized and codified this whole school of thought.
And the text notes that Shankaracharya, who was following the tradition of his own teacher's teacher, Gaudapada, interprets texts like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, and he explicitly accepts rebirth in a practical way. He talks about it all the time.
This is key. Here is a man who is considered fully awake. He knows the absolute truth that no birth ever occurred. But in his writings for his students, he writes extensively about reincarnation, karma, duty, ethics.
So why? If he knows it's a lie, a useful fiction, why acknowledge it? Is he just patronizing people? Oh, you poor sleeping souls, let me tell you a story.
No, it's not patronizing at all. It's pedagogical. It's a teaching method. This raises a really important question. What is the utility of a useful fiction?
A useful fiction. Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like telling a kid that Santa's watching so they behave before Christmas.
It's a bit deeper than that, but it's on the same track.
Yeah.
The source explains that he accepts it to help the sadhak, the spiritual seeker or practitioner.
To help them do what, exactly?
To help them move forward on the path, to purify their own minds. The text mentions specifically that believing in this process, this cause and effect, encourages discipline through things like karma yoga, which is the path of selfless action, and bhakti, the path of devotion.
So it's like gamification for enlightenment. You give people rules and points to keep them engaged.
In a sense, imagine you have a mind that is just a mess. It's chaotic. You're angry. You're jealous. You're constantly distracted. Can that mind grasp a concept as subtle and vast as absolute infinity?
Probably not. It's too busy worrying about who liked its latest Instagram post or what someone said about them yesterday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need a way to purify the instrument first. You need a structure. You need a practice. If you believe your actions have real, tangible consequences that will follow you, karma and rebirth,
Right.
you will naturally start to act more righteously. You'll stop hurting people. You'll practice devotion. You'll clean up your acts.
And that discipline, that cleaning up, acts as a stepping stone. It calms the waters of the mind.
Exactly. The source describes it as a transition. It is a means to an end, not the end itself. It moves the seeker forward step by step until their mind is subtle enough and pure enough to reach Gyan, which is that ultimate direct knowledge.
So the belief in reincarnation is a tool. It's a tool to get you to the place where you can finally realize that reincarnation isn't real.
That is the beautiful paradox at the heart of the practice. You use the illusion to get out of the illusion.
And what happens then? Once they reach that knowledge, that Gyan, what happens to the useful fiction of rebirth?
Then comes the aha moment described in the text, that moment of waking up. Once that ultimate knowledge is attained, the entire perspective shifts completely. The source puts it very bluntly. Everything was mithya, false. Nothing actually happened.
It's the moment you wake up from the nightmare and say, oh, thank God there was no tiger.
Right. But, and here is the crucial nuance, you couldn't have woken up if you hadn't run from the tiger. Or rather, the effort and the discipline you undertook within the dream, that act of running and surviving, helped prepare your mind for the act of waking up.
That is a total brain twister. The journey is about taking steps that eventually reveal that the steps themselves and the path were part of the illusion all along.
That is the core paradox of the path. You must use the rules of the illusion to break the illusion. You must take the game seriously to win the game, at which point you realize it was just a game.
Which leads us perfectly into the next section of our source material. Because if we accept this, that the world is an illusion, our struggle is an illusion, we run into a really, really big practical problem when it comes to the person teaching us all this.
The skeptic's doubt. The ultimate gotcha question.
Yes. And I love that the source anticipates this logical trap. It shows this philosophy isn't afraid of being interrogated. It asks, okay, fine. If everything is Maya, if everything is illusion, then isn't the guru, the teacher, also Maya? Isn't the teacher sitting in front of me telling me all this? Aren't they just part of the dream too?
It's a completely valid question. It's actually a devastating question if you really think about it.
Right. I mean, let's go back to the dream with the tiger. Imagine you're running, and suddenly a wise-looking person appears in the jungle and says, hey, listen to me, wake up, this isn't real.
Okay, but that wise person is also made of dream stuff. They're a product of your own sleeping mind.
Exactly. They're a dream character, so why on earth should I listen to a dream character? Their body, their words, their supposed wisdom, it's all part of the very simulation they're telling me to escape.
So what does the expert voice in the text do? Do they deny this? Do they say, no, the guru is special, the guru is real, everyone else is the illusion?
No. That's the craziest part. They lean right into it. They admit it.
They do. They have to be consistent.
The text says, and I'm paraphrasing here, Strictly speaking, the guru and the teaching are part of the illusion.
That is a moment of just radical intellectual honesty in the text. They admit that the pointer itself, the guru, the words, the scripture, the teaching, is within Maya. The destination they point to is beyond Maya, but the pointer is not.
That feels like it should collapse the whole system. If the teacher is fake, the lesson is fake. If the lesson is fake, I'm not really learning anything. It seems like a dead end.
But it doesn't collapse the system. It actually explains the mechanism of the system. The source gives us this incredible ancient metaphor to explain why it works. The metaphor of the thorn.
The thorn metaphor, it is so vivid, isn't it?
It's ancient and it's just perfect. Using a thorn to remove a thorn.
Let's deconstruct that analogy from the text, because I think this is the key to understanding how we can interact with spirituality or any system of knowledge without getting trapped in dogma.
Okay, so imagine you are walking barefoot in a forest. It's a dense, thorny place. You step on a massive, sharp thorn, and it breaks off deep in the sole of your foot.
Okay. Ouch. And that thorn, the one stuck in my foot, that represents ignorance, or Maya, the
Yeah.
fundamental problem.
Yes, the thorn in your foot is the illusion that causes you pain. It is the suffering of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. It hurts. It feels incredibly real. It's making you limp. It's
Yeah.
ruining your walk.
So what do? I need to get it out. I don't have tweezers. I don't have a scalpel. I'm in the middle of the woods.
You're in the forest. You have to use what is available in the forest.
Yeah.
So you look around and you pick up another thorn.
Another thorn. Okay.
Maybe a longer one, a sharper one, a good, strong thorn.
Yeah.
This second thorn represents the guru. It represents wisdom. It represents the teachings, the scriptures, the practices.
But it's still a thorn. It's made of the exact same material as the thing that's causing me all this pain. It's wood. It's sharp. It's from the same forest.
Exactly. It is of the same nature. It is part of the relative reality, it is part of the dream. But you use this second thorn, this tool, to carefully, precisely dig into your skin and pry out the first thorn.
That sounds incredibly painful, by the way. This is not a gentle process.
The path to truth often isn't. You have to probe. You have to dig. The guru pushes you, challenges your beliefs, makes you uncomfortable. It's a kind of spiritual surgery.
And then once the first thorn, the ignorance, the suffering, is finally out.
What do you do with the second thorn, the one you just used as a tool? Do you stick it in the hole where the first one was? Do you put it on an altar and worship it for the rest of your life?
No, of course not. It served its purpose. You throw it away. You're done with it.
You throw both thorns away. The problem and the solution to the problem, both are discarded.
Ah, that is brilliant. And also, it feels kind of disrespectful, doesn't it, to just throw away the guru?
It's the ultimate form of respect, because a true guru's job was to make you free, not to make you a lifelong dependent. Once the first thorn of ignorance is removed, the second thorn of the teaching is no longer needed. If you keep holding on to the second thorn, you're just swapping one form of bondage for another.
So the guru is a tool within the illusion that is specifically designed to dismantle the illusion. And then it dismantles itself.
Yes, it's like the alarm clock that rings inside your dream. The alarm clock is part of the dream bedroom. You hear it with your dream ears, but its entire function is to wake you up and destroy that very bedroom.
And the source goes even deeper into these relationship dynamics. It defines the disciple as well. And this is where it gets a little humiliating for those of us on a search.
How does it define a disciple?
It says a disciple is simply one who considers themselves ignorant.
That sounds simple enough, but look at the logic loop it creates.
Right. We just established that ignorance is Maya. Ignorance is the dream state.
So if you defined yourself by your ignorance, if your identity is, I am a student, I am ignorant, I need to learn, you are, by definition, identifying yourself as an entity within the dream.
So the disciple is a dream character too, just as much as the guru.
Correct. The text explains that the entire guru-disciple dialogue, this whole dynamic of teaching and learning, is only possible as long as this sense of ignorance exists. It is a temporary arrangement within the dream, designed to end the dream.
It's like two characters in a play. You have the doctor and you have the patient. The relationship feels very real. The stakes are high. But that relationship only exists as long as the curtain is up. Once the play is over, the actors are just people. The teacher and student roles completely evaporate.
Precisely. And in the context of Advaita, they don't just become people, they realize they were always the one. The same consciousness was playing both parts.
Which leads to what the source calls the collapse of duality, the grand finale of the play.
This is where we get into the really deep end. The text brings in another sage here, a guy named Ashtavakra.
Ashtavakra. I've heard that name. He's the really intense one, right? No nonsense.
Very intense. The Ashtavakra Gita is considered one of the purest, most undiluted expressions of non-duality. There's no fluff. It's just the raw truth.
And the quote the text provides is, "As long as there is illusion, the remedy must also be within the illusion."
This just reinforces that thorn strategy we were talking about. You must destroy Maya from within Maya.
That's so interesting because usually in spiritual circles, we think we need to transcend to find the answer. We think we need to go to some other dimension or a higher plane of consciousness.
But you can't step outside of the universe to fix the universe. You are in it.
Yeah.
You're a fish in the ocean. You can't get out of the water to study the water. You have to dismantle the house while you are still standing inside it.
That sounds dangerous and frankly impossible. How do you take apart the floor you're standing on?
It sounds impossible from our current perspective. But the text describes the result. It describes the post-awakening state. The technical term is Atma-Sakshashkar self-realization.
What does that look like, according to the notes? Is it a big flash of light? Do angels start singing?
No light shows, no angels. It's described more as a total unification, a collapse of boundaries. The source says, first, the distinction between guru and disciple vanishes.
Gone. No more teacher, no more student.
Then, the distinction between the self, God, and Brahman vanishes.
All seen as one and the same.
They are all realized to be the same, single, indivisible one. It's not that the disciple becomes the guru, it's not a promotion, it's the realization that the boundaries that seem to separate them were never actually there in the first place.
It's like waves on the ocean. One wave is big, maybe that's the guru. One wave is small, the disciple. And the small wave looks up to the big wave and wants to be like it. But when they both crash onto the shore,
They are just water. And they realize they always were just water. The waveness was a temporary form.
and then after all that, the source hits us with what I'm calling the final irony, the punchline.
The ultimate cosmic conclusion.
Yes. It says that after this destruction of the illusion, the final realization is not just that it's over, it's something much, much weirder than that.
The realization is twofold. First, the source says you realize that Maya, the illusion, never actually existed in the first place.
Which means the problem you were trying to solve never existed. The thorn in your foot was imaginary.
And second, as a consequence of that, you realize that no destruction or refutation or spiritual battle was ever actually necessary.
This is the part that completely breaks my brain. We spend lifetimes, according to the relative view anyway, striving, meditating, learning, performing rituals, using the second thorn to painstakingly dig out the first one, only to realize that there was no foot, no thorn, and no one there digging.
That is the profound, mind-bending paradox the source wants us to sit with. Think about the sheer scale of the effort. The incredible effort required to come to the final realization that no effort was ever needed because the problem wasn't real to begin with.
It truly is the cosmic joke.
It's the punchline of the entire universe.
But, and I feel like we have to stress this again and again, you can't just skip to the punchline. You don't get the joke unless you've heard the whole story.
Absolutely not. That is the great danger, sometimes called the Neo-Advaita trap. People hear, nothing is real, you are already free, and they think, great, I'm done, I can just sit on the couch.
Right. But if you just say nothing is real while the relative tiger is chasing you, you get eaten by the relative tiger.
Exactly. You have to play the game to realize it's a game. You have to use the thorn to remove the thorn. You can't just walk around with a thorn in your foot saying the thorn isn't real while you're limping and bleeding. The pain is real on its own level.
That is such a crucial distinction. It validates the entire spiritual path, the struggle, the discipline, while simultaneously telling you the path is ultimately imaginary.
Which is why a master like Shankaracharya insisted so heavily on karma yoga and bhakti. Do the work. Scrub the temple floor. Worship the deity. Polish the mirror of the mind so that it can actually reflect the truth when it appears. You can't see the sky in a muddy puddle.
So we've traveled from the feeling of a solid, tangible reality to the idea that it's all a dream, to the notion of the guru as a tool within that dream, all the way to the final realization that none of it ever actually happened.
It's a complete circle. A circle that, in the end, eats its own tail and vanishes.
Let's just take a breath here, because we've thrown a lot of Sanskrit terms and very high-concept philosophy at you. Paramarthic, Vyavaharic, Maya, Mithya. I want to circle back and just summarize the key insights from this stack of notes in plain, simple English.
Good idea. Let's boil it all down. At the core, we have the two truths.
The relative versus the absolute.
Right. Relative reality, Vyavaharic, is where we live our lives. We suffer, we learn, we love, we lift our hands. It's the movie we're all watching, and we're the main character.
And absolute reality, paramarthic, is the screen the movie is playing on. It's the underlying, unchanging truth where nothing ever happened. It's the silence behind all the noise.
And then we have the thorn.
The method. The path. Using the illusion, the teachings, the guru, the practices to cure the illusion. The key is that you don't reject the dream. You use the dream itself as the tool to wake up.
And finally, the collapse of duality. The final realization that the separation between you, the world, the teacher, and the ultimate reality was never there to begin with.
I think that's the part that is most relevant to anyone listening, whether you're into Vedanta or not. You don't have to be a monk in a cave to get some real value from this.
How do you mean? What's the practical takeaway?
Because it completely changes how we view our struggles. The source material suggests a middle way. It suggests we should take the dream rules seriously enough to learn from them, like Shakardara suggests with discipline and ethics, but not so seriously that we are completely crushed by them.
That's a beautiful balance. It gives you a bit of healthy detachment. You can play your role in life as a parent, an employee, a friend, with full commitment and heart. You can cry at the sad parts of the movie, but there is a little secret knowledge in the back of your mind that says, this is just the play. This form is temporary.
Exactly. It takes some of the existential pressure off. You're just removing a thorn. You aren't fundamentally damned. You aren't a sinner or broken. You're just currently stuck in a very convincing dream.
And eventually, you'll throw the tweezers away too. The method isn't the goal.
Which brings me to the final provocative thought I want to leave our listeners with today. It's something that's been rattling around my head since we talked about the thorn. We talked about the guru being a thorn you eventually have to discard.
Yes, a means to an end.
So here's the question for you, listening right now. Consider the things in your life that you think are saving you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Your routines, your most cherished beliefs, your political identity, your diet, maybe even your mentors or the specific podcasts you listen to. Yes, even this one.
Yeah.
Are they the final, absolute truth?
Or are they just thorns? Are they just temporary tools?
Are they just useful fictions you are using to dig out a deeper ignorance? And if they are you brave enough to be willing to throw them away once they've done their job? Or are you starting to hoard thorns and call it wisdom?
That is a scary but incredibly liberating thought, to hold our solutions loosely.
It is. It asks us to be ready to let go of the raft once we've crossed the river.
And to step onto the shore.
Where we might just realize there was no river, no raft, and no shore to begin with.
Exactly.
On that note, we will leave you to ponder your own reality. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.
Assuming there is a next time. And a you. Bye.